Okay, just make sure this is working. Okay, so if you're in the audience right now, I know I started a little bit early. If you're in the audience, it's mine just giving like a thumbs up or something, because I'm trying out a different streaming platform. So I've never used this one before. So if you're able to hear me okay and stuff like that, you might just like throw in like a thumbs up or something like that in the chat, just so I could see it, just so I could make sure I am doing everything okay. I'm gonna make sure I get everything else working all right. Okay. Okay, so no comments so far. So let me get this figured out here. So we're all good. Okay. Oh, here now they're coming. Okay, cool. Now, okay. So it's a little delayed. Okay, cool. So we're good. So, like I said, this is my first time doing any kind of like a live workshop or anything like that. I have one planned for Saturday. I planned that about, I'd say, like 2 weeks ago, which is one I am, to be honest, a little bit more used to. I've been making my own budget dashboard for a while, but I wanted to test this out. I've never done a YouTube live, never done a workshop. So I'm like, you know what? I got a little bit of time now. I'm going to put together a nice little Excel dashboard using some healthcare analytics. And the whole point of this is the project itself. It's not that complicated. However, it's really up to interpretation. So the way I put together is just how I want to put together. If there's things in here that you want to do different, even like a color or a type of chart, that's all fine. I kind of want to go through this and kind of talk about how I would process this data, how I would put together, how I would design the dashboard, and then answer any questions that come in, because I know we have this up on YouTube, and with this streaming platform I'm using, StreamYard I get all the comments right here. I'm not sure. They seem to come in a little bunched up, but any questions or anything like that, I'll see it on one screen, and on my other screen, as you see right here, is everything I'll be working on. So I'll be able to look at both monitors with no issue. But of course, like I said, if you want to access this data set and the materials that are with it, it's in the description of the video. It's a GitHub link. So once you click on it, there should be an option to download. You download that, and it should be this document right here. If there's any issues with that, you can definitely let me know. I'm going to take a little bit of time to kind of talk over this data set and kind of like discuss what we're doing with it and what the end result should look like. So with this data set, it's basically looking at an emergency room. Now, there's many different types of departments. There's general practice, orthopedics, and so forth. This is all based on the year 2022 and 2023. We're not going to work with all this data. I try to make this also a little bit realistic, where if you're doing a project, you're most likely not going to analyze every single thing in it. There's more of a specific reason to what you're doing. So the whole point of this is we're going to be focusing on orthopedics. Now I'm going to go a little more in depth onto what we're going to do with it. But in here, we have the date that the patient checked in, their unique ID, their gender, their age, the what it says SAT score. What that means is patient satisfaction score. So scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not good, 10 being excellent. Their last name, their race, admin flag. Now, what that means is if it's a true, that means it's a little bit more of an emergency. False, no problem. Wait time, that's how long they waited to actually be checked in. And the department referral is depending on if there's a specific department they were referred to. So a little bit of everything here. We're not going to be using most of this data, though. Okay, so the whole point of everything we have here, and you kind of almost get like a... should I say a little teaser with some of these different sheets down here, is what we're focused on is we are trying to only focus on the year 2023 in orthopedics. And we want to do in there's going to be several insights we want to pull out of it. We want to know how many patients. We want to know the average customer score. We want to know the average wait time. We want to see if there's a correlation between the wait time and the time of the day. and we want to focus maybe even the weekday. There's many different insights we want to pull together because we almost want to assume that, I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes when people ask for these requests, sometimes they don't really know. They have an idea what they're looking for, but at the same time, they don't. So I think the whole point of this is to like, okay, we want to provide. How did I find this? I found it on real world data. I forget the exact. I could link it in a second, but I did make some changes to it. I changed up the dates because they were kind of based on like it was like 2019 and 2020, so I updated them to be a little bit more current. I took out some columns that weren't needed, but I could find that link at the very end. If you don't mind me again, I could go I could look back at my history and see exactly where I found it. So I give you like the source in case you want to put on your project. Be like, yeah, I found it from this website. So I can definitely do that, no problem. But I found it was like real world data. I forget the exact website name, but it was one of them. But I'll, like I said, at the end, I'll make sure I get that to you. So yeah, like I said, most of the things we put together, especially for me on the job, is I'm given a request, but usually there's not too much information behind it. So what I want to try to do is like, okay, I want to see what is the most important, and how do I highlight that? Is it with a table? Is it with a chart? Is it with KPIs? Like, what is the whole purpose of it? So before we get started, is there any, like I said, this is my first time doing a workshop, and I could move a little quick sometimes. So I'm going to try my best to take it nice and easy, answer any questions you have on the side. The beautiful thing with these two monitors is I can look here and there, So if there's any questions come up, I'll be able to look and see. And also what's good about this being YouTube Live is that you're able to look back in case you come in late or you have to go somewhere for 10 minutes or something like that. You could always look back and jump back and forth. So if there's no questions, we could definitely hop into it. And so like I said, we have this whole entire data set. I'm not doing anything fancy with it. I just want to filter for what I need. And like I said, what we need is anything in the year 2023. And that was a department referral with orthopedics. That's it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new sheet. Let's just go right here. New sheet. Now I'm going to call this orthopedics, just because that's what we're going to be working with. I want to make sure that I like to keep the whole data on one sheet. I don't want to mess with that at all. I want to treat that like almost like treat this like if you're big with SQL. If you're pulling from a table, right? You're not going to mess with the table. You're just trying to pull from it. That's basically what we're doing, except we're just doing a couple filters to get exactly what we want. So we have orthopedics here. Like I said, I want to create a filter. So quick keyboard shortcut with that is Control-Shift-L, and the whole entire top row becomes filters. I only want 2023. So let me drop down there. I don't know why, but only when I do this date filter on this sheet, it gets really slow. There we go. I don't know why. Every other thing is just fine. Okay. So let me get rid of that. Don't know why it's so slow. Okay, cool. So we're here right now with 2023. So anything in here is only the year 2023. You want to make sure it is with that. Because in this data set, there's 2022 and 2023. We only want 2023. So now we go over to column J, which is the department referral. And we want to make sure, because as you see right here, if I click column J, we see there's a count of about 4,800 people that checked in. So about 4,800, but it's like we only want orthopedics. That number should go significantly down. So get rid of all of this, and we'll only click on orthopedics. Click OK. How many we got now? Yep, 532. So like I said, you should be having in the day column should be only the year 2023, and should only be orthopedics for the referral. Once we get what we need, we're just going to copy all of this and paste it into a new sheet. We're not doing anything fancy with it. We're just going to take what we have, put it in a new sheet, and then we could take all these filters off and put it back the way it was. So with this, you could click into any cell, Control A to select your data, Control C, head back over to orthopedics, and Control V to paste into A1, And when you do this, it gets to this kind of format, right? Where it doesn't really get fit into cells properly. All you got to do is just click on the entire sheet here, double click, and we're all good. So that's a quick little shortcut with that. And then I like to make sure it is. So if you go to the GitHub link, let me see if I could let me pull over a screen here. So when you get to this link right here, this is exactly the link that went. If you click, there's a couple options. You can download raw file or view raw, whatever that is. If you do one of those two, you'll be able to download it. Zoom in a bit. Oh, it's a little tough. Yeah, Grace, I'll zoom in when I get back. No problem. But yeah, to get this data set, because I uploaded it as a file, you just got to click the download button here or click view raw to get the file to download. That is how you access it. Look at that. Look at using two screens. This is awesome. Zoom in. It's a little tough for you guys to see with this because this might get a little hard later on, but let me see. Is this a little bit better for anyone? Just a little bit better, see? Okay. Well, I'm gonna assume. You know what? Here. I'm gonna go here. Let me make everything a little bit larger. I'll just do that instead. Cool. Better? Awesome. Cool. No problem. Yeah, because I know it's tough because like on my end, this might get a little tough because when I have to do the dashboard, I like to zoom out a little bit when I do my dashboard. So it's a little bit different of a design than looking at a sheet. But it's weird. Like on mine, I feel like it's so huge. And I look over here to the right, which is the feed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's actually way different. So like I said, I appreciate you mentioning that. So I want to go back to my data. And if I want to just get rid of the filter, I just go to data and just clear filter to put it back the way it was. I just like to make sure that the place where I got my data from is exactly the way it should be. It's not filtered in any way, just in case I have to go back and get what I want. So that's all good there. And also another little thing, I am not the biggest fan of like autosave because sometimes it saves my work when I don't want it to, but I like to definitely hit that save button every few minutes or anytime I do a big, let's say a certain lookup or some kind of visualization, I always save my work with Excel. So we're all good here. So there's a couple things we have to do here. There's a couple things I want to extract. I want to pull it from this date right here. So I want a few things. I want to know when I look at this date, I want the time because you see right here, it's set into 24 hours. I want to be, 10 a.m., 10 p.m., not just at 22 hours, 15 hours. I want to set like that. And I also want to know the weekday that it was on. And you know what? I want to pull the month as well. But I want the month to be the text. I don't want to be 1, 2, 3, 4. I want it to be January, February, March. And then the weekday, I want to know, was it a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? And then the time, I want that set as a 12-hour time, not a 24-hour. So we're going to add in a few columns here. And I'm just going to call this one month. Call this one the day of the week. And we'll call this one. Now, I'm going to put it as time frame because I'm going to explain to it when I get to that part. Because there's going to be something we're going to be doing with this time. Because when you look at this, you'll see some of them be like, oh, like what could be 125 or 115 or 145. It gets really hard to track that. So what we're going to do eventually is put everything into more of a time frame. So first things first, we're going to do the month. And we see this currently set up as time. So all I'm going to do here is do equals text. We see right here that text, it converts a value to a text in a specific number format. We'll open that up. And for value, I'm just going to click into a 2. And how do I want this? And I want this as a month. So all I'm going to do for this one is open up my quotes and I'm going to do 4 M's. 1, 2, 3, 4. Close it up. And we're going to take a look when I click enter. And we're all good. So I just want to show again, that's with when I do 4 M's. Now, if I do, let's say 3, you're going to see a little bit of a difference here. It abbreviates it. right? It just leaves it as just JAN. Now, I want the full month because when I do my slicer later, I want it to be the full month. So that's how we set that up for the month. And doing the day to week, it's going to be very similar as well. But I want to make sure I apply this to the rest of the cells. So once I'm done, double click right here, apply to the rest. Now, when you're doing this, right, you want to make sure since you have everything you need here, you don't want to leave this as a formula. You want to turn this into values. You don't want to leave the way it is, because if you mess with the cell or mess with anything else, it could ruin what's going on in column B. So you have to paste as values. Before I do it, because since I am a big keyboard shortcut person, if anyone, because I know it's not as many people's would be in the Discord webinars or whatnot, but does anyone know the keyboard shortcut to pasting something as a value? Not just pasting, but pasting a cell or column as a value. Does anyone know what that keyboard shortcut is? Three, two, one. Okay. Should move on. So in order to do this, I want to paste as a value, so each of these cells becomes basically a text or a value. I don't want it to be set up as a formula. So all I'm going to do is just copy it, Control C. I'm going to do Control Alt V, and it pulls up my paste special table. Click V again because I want to paste as a value. Click Enter, and we're all done. So in order to do that really quickly, to take anything that's in a formula and turn it into a text or a value, it's Control Alt V V. That's how that's done. And you can see right now when I click into each cell, it's a text, or should I say value. So now it's set up so anytime I do anything with this, it will not be affected. It's right there. It is its own cell. It is good to go. So now for day of the week, it's very similar. So once again, I'm doing text again, clicking into A2, putting in a comma. And for the day of the week, we're going to do the letter D 4 times, close it up, enter, and we get a day of the week. Same thing, apply it to the rest. Control C, Control Alt V V, enter. So it's very similar both ways. The month, which is M, and you want the day, which is the letter D. Yeah, so yeah, with this being on, the reason why I'm doing this on YouTube Live is it automatically records. That's why I want to give this a try, because it automatically saves, and I could download it as well. And for example, in the beginning, when I was talking about everything about the data set, stuff like that, I could trim part of this video out to make it a little bit easier to watch back. So that's why I'm doing it on YouTube Live, just so people could watch this at a later time to double check some things or whatnot. It automatically saves, which is why I wanted to give this a try. So we have everything set with day of the week. Now for the time frame, what I basically am trying to say is okay, if there's anything from 1 to 1:59 p.m., I want to just call it 1. If it's anywhere from 2 to 2:59, I want it just to be 2. So there's a few ways you could do it. You could do a huge if statement, but that would take forever. All I'm going to do is I'm going to just extract the hour from the date column. That's it. I just want the hour, and then if it's AM or PM. So there's a couple things. I'm going to extract it. It's going to be a text, but I don't want it to be text. It has to become a time value. So I'm going to do a nested text formula using time value. So it starts us off. I'm going to be doing equals time value. And what this is going to do is anything I put in here, whatever the result I put in, it will turn that into a time value automatically. I don't have to go up here and do anything crazy with it. It automatically becomes a time value. So I'm going to be clicking then into, I'm going to be doing this as now text, going into A2. And we got to think, okay, what do you want to pull from this? So we won't pull the hour. So we're only going to be typing the letter H one time. And I want to also know what that hour is. It AM or PM? So I'm going to do AM/PM. Oh, not OM, PM. And we're going to close that up. But because it's nested, we have to close it up again to complete the whole entire formula. So that's what that looks like. I'm going to click enter, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. And then I will discuss how we will approach that. Click enter. Let me apply it to the rest. Now you might be looking at this and you're like, what the heck's going on? Why is it all messed up like that? Well, I'll explain in a second. But we can see right here, all we have to do now is go back up to here. And I want to do the time, but I want to do it a little bit different. And you see right here that it recognizes it as a time. If you look right here in the time column, and there we go. We get everything we're looking for, right? We extracted it for only the hour. So, for example, this is 17:25, so that would be 5:25 p.m. It only says 5 because we're only looking at the time frame here. So we're all set there. And once again, to make sure everything I do in here does not get affected, just Control-C, Control-Alt-V, enter. And I have our time frame. Okay. So we're all good there. So we have, because we're using some of these things, like these two will eventually be, you know what, here, let me show you kind of like this is what I made. And this is kind of me just kind of throwing stuff on a sheet. Didn't really organize it too much. Just kind of threw together on a sheet. But for example, like these slicers here are what we're using to filter for some of these results. So I want to make sure that I extracted that from the date. So we could, where does it mean we'll write 4 times? Oh, so the reason why I'm not doing 4, you know what? Let me show you what happens. Let me just, I'll clear this out. I'll show you what happens I'll show you when you do like 2 H's. Do you know the long cut way? Long cut way to paste values. Okay, Microsoft. Oh yeah, I got you. Yeah, I have a MacBook. I hate working with that. I'm so used to working with my like PC, my Windows stuff. When I get the Mac, it's terrible. But yeah, I'll do that in a second when I do the paste values. So I'm gonna do that again with the time value text A2. And then let's say I do 2 H's. Close that up. Let me get so now it's set up as time. Let me see. Okay. So right now it's just I'm not gonna erase too much of my progress here. But basically with the H, it affects it because I only want this to be in one spot right here. If the H would affect it as, it would say, for example, if it was 2, it would say 01. It would say for 1 p.m. it would be 01 ... 00 p.m. It would make it too many letters. And you see it here with anytime you do day of the week or month, by you putting in it 4 times, it wants the full value, not just it abbreviated. So all it means is how many times you put in that letter H for hours. If you put it in additional times, it extracts a certain part of the hour it wants. But because I only want to be like the lack of zeros in the beginning, I only put it in as 1 H to pull it in like that, because I don't want anything extra in front of it. I just want what's the appropriate number. Because like I said, you're extracting as a text. So Excel doesn't understand what you're using it for. It just knows the letter H means hour. They don't really know what you're doing with it. So you have to make sure, like, you know, with you're doing the days a week or month, as I did before with the month, I put in N 3 times. So that means we're only going to bring back 3 letters. If you do 2, it brings back 2 and so forth. So let's say, look, so if you just want to just copy and paste here using your mouse, you just click into the data you want, which is all set up right here. Just right click, you just click copy. And then when you get to here, there should be an option right here where it's the paste options, and it's like these numbers right here. It should say values, or if you go into paste special, it'll be more options there. But by doing it that way, that's just how you use it for the copy and paste as values. That's you should see something right here with the numbers right there. So that's how that's done. Okay, yeah, I could do so much data. I kept it. I only tried to do a little bit of data cleaning with this one because I said I'm trying to keep this one pretty simple. But in the future, as the more experience I get doing these workshops, I have way more stuff planned in the future for you guys. And like I said, good thing about YouTube Live, if I'm not mistaken, you could go back if you came late or you're unsure about something. You could go back and then kind of jump around a little bit, should I say, with what you're learning and where you're at. So we're all set. I'm gonna stop talking because we are all set here. We got everything we need. We got our month, day to week, our time frame. We are set. What I want to do now, I think is always advisable, and also you might think, okay, like this date column's not as needed since we extracted everything. I still want to keep it there. I don't want to mess with that. I like to have it for reference. I don't want to mess with that one bit. I want to turn this into a table. You should always turn your data into tables, never just leave them like this, because when they're in tables, much more you could work with, much more organized, and you can name it way easier for the future when we do our dashboards. So if you want to turn something into a table, click into any cell here and you do Control A. And the reason why you do that, some people might think, okay, let me just select the entire sheet. Well, that's not, your Excel will literally crash. If you try to turn this into a table, you're going to have all these cells become part of a table and it's going to crash. You only want to select what you want. So click in anything here, Control A to select your data, and Control T to make it a table. Now, make sure it should automatically do it, but it says my table has headers. It does. If this is unchecked, it'll just say column 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to look pretty bad. So make sure that it sets as headers. And we're all good. And you can make this whatever. You can put a color in here. All these different colors you want. I don't know. It doesn't really matter too much. I like to have, for tables, depending on what they're about, I like to keep the colors associated with it. Since this is just an overall table, I'm just gonna leave it blue because it doesn't really matter that much. But with this now, we can create pivot tables. Any cell, Control A and then Control T. Yep. And what you want to do with this is huge for when you want to start connecting your slicers later and anything like that, or just in general, if you're working with a bunch of data, name your tables. So over here in the top left where it says table name, call this whatever you want. I'm just gonna call this orthopedics, since we're working with that. And it's going to help so much because later they're going to be like, okay, where do you want this slicer associated with? Instead of being table 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and not knowing where it goes, which happened to me yesterday when I was working. I was like, oh, I forgot to name my tables. When you name them, so much easier to know what's going on, where things should be going. So we are all set with this. Now, I'll leave this up to you guys. It's up to you. I kind of put this in order on how I'd want to do some things. The dashboard part is going to be, I like to use it. I like to sketch what I want my dashboard to look like first. And how I do that is a couple ways. And how I do this, right? Like, there's many times I put this together and I end up making it a little bit larger at the end, or I get rid of a certain area. But it's always good to kind of sketch things out a little bit so you kind of have an idea where you want things to go. I will say that once you create one and you start creating some more designs, then aka templates, save them and just reuse them or change up a little bit here and there. It's going to save you so much time. So much time. But for now, it's kind of just, we're going to talk about how to just like how I just look at it. If I'm doing something really quick, right? We're treating this like a quick assignment. This is not something where we're spending a week on. This is something that your manager comes to you at 9 a.m. and are like, hey, can you get this to me by the end of the day? This is kind of how it gets put together. So What I'm going to do is I kind of want to design it just as reference. This is kind of what it looks like, right? I don't really have borders on it or anything here. But I want to do something so I make sure I am focused on the right areas and not all over the place. So I'm going to do with that is also, if you saw too, there's no grid lines on this. There's, the cells and everything, but there's no grid lines, which is, a lot easier to look at. But I do that at the very last second because what I do now is I basically create a couple boxes, and I honestly just kind of look. Right now, I'm doing this with you guys. I did this yesterday just to mess around with, but I'm kind of like doing this too with you all. I'm just going to go from like E2 to E10 and just maybe take up about, let's say, about that much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to borders, which is right here. I'm going to do thick outside borders. What that's going to do is basically like, okay, I want for example, in this one, my title to go up here. Right? And if you saw right here, that's kind of what that looked like. Was my title area to the left and my KPIs to the right. So it lets me know I want eventually to do some things with this box. Now, this could change. This could get smaller, could get larger, can maybe get not as wide, but it's good just to sketch it out. And this might get a little tough to see, but I typically go out to 80% with this just so I could have a little bit more room. And then, so that's what that looks like. I'm going to put my, let's go. Let's go right here. I'm going to put one right there. And like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect because at the end, when we start moving things over here, all the stuff will go away. It's just kind of a reference, or, if, for example, you do this and it's 4 cells wide instead of 3, it's not that big of a deal because you'll see when you put it in there how wide you want your slicer to be, how wide you want your chart to be. This is just for you to just kind of see right away. And once you start putting some things in there, you'll see what you want to keep and what you don't want to. So we have here also, I'm going to have my title here, my KPIs here, slicers, AK filters here. And I'm going to have a table here, a chart here, and a pretty long line chart, combo chart down there. What I'm going to do with this is just kind of go here with this. Create one there. Yeah, let me get rid of that. That was a little too wide. A little too much. And I'll go one right here. And then we'll just go right here. And like I said, I'm kind of just sketching right now. This will definitely not stay the same. And you can see what I did before. My dashboard and the other one did not look like this. This one chart was not this wide. This one wasn't that short. It's just for reference. So when you start moving things over, we're not, like I said, just throwing things for no reason. But this is like just a quick little, should I say, you know what? Let me go like right here in the middle because I'll be like, you know what? This will be for my KPIs. Cool. That's a nice split. So I have my little design up. And like I said, however you want to do it, you could do it a little bit different too. Like I said, there's more data in here that we could work with. This is really just for a quick reference so at the end, we're not going in too blind with this. Does anyone have any questions about the dashboard design or anything like that, or any questions about dashboard designing as I drink this really cold coffee? No questions? Cool. Like I said, if any questions come up, just feel free to let me know. So let's get to our first one. I labeled all these sheets because what we're going to be doing for each of these sheets will be a pivot table. So this one's going to be KPI. So the whole point for this one is going to be we're looking for how many patients there were, what was the average customer score, and what was the average wait time. So in order to do that, go here to orthopedics. You click into any cell here. Because this is a table, Excel will recognize it and select all of the data. That's why we like to set up as a table. So we go into insert, we go pivot table. And okay, it says, see right there, picks up from the orthopedics table, that's why we like to do that. Instead of saying table 1, table 2, you just know exactly where it's coming from. You want to make sure we're doing existing worksheet because we already set one up. Existing worksheet. Go back to your KPIs and click into anywhere. I like to go to like C5, like right there. And it's going to start your first pivot table. Now, once again, just like the others, we want to make sure we name this. So I'm just going to call this KPIs, just so we know which one is associated with. So once again, I'm trying to find out the total patients, the average customer score, and the average wait time. So we have to think, let me go back to orthopedics. Which of these columns would be the best choice to find out how many patients there were? Defining the count of it. Like, which of these columns makes the most sense? Which one would ideally make the most sense for us here? There we go. Thank you, Meredith. Patient ID. Yep. So, like I said, with the patient, I always like to make sure in anything I work with that there's some kind of unique ID because it just gets significantly easier if you're trying to join data or trying to find a certain count. Because it's unique, it's way easier to work with. And to make sure you're not doing like count of department referral or count of something else. Like that's just not the best technique or practice. So I'm going to go back to KPIs, and I'm going to drag this into values. So we're good right there. So we're good there with that. So we have the count of patient ID. And let's go now to, so we said, my brain's messing up. Oh, yeah, it's average score. It's patient score. Drag that in here. And I'm going to drag the wait time in here too. Now, when you're looking at this, make sure, especially with Excel, they like to take numbers and they always want to sum them. They never just count them, right? Because they see numbers like, okay, we have to add. So make sure when you're doing this, you got to make sure you're not just throwing it out there because, like I said, the average score is 784. Like, that makes no sense, right? You just got to take a second to look at that. So make sure you go into the value section, the drop down we'll start off with the patient score. Go to value field settings. And we're going to instead of that being a sum, we're going to average. No, not max. Yep, there we go. Click OK. And then same thing for the wait time. Field settings, average. Good. Okay. So we have this set up right here. We have the amount of patients and the score and the wait time. However, these two numbers that's not going to work, right? So to me, I want the score just one digit. I don't want there being a million. So let me just go up here where it says this right arrow, decrease decimal, decrease that to just 1. And then the wait time, this is in minutes. I don't want to say 35.8 minutes, or I'm just going to make that a whole number. So just going to take away all this around it, and we're good. So we have everything we need right here. We have our patient ID, the average score, and the average wait time. So we're all set with that one. Pretty simple, right to the point. Now let's go to the next one. We're going to be looking at the customer score by each month. This is why we got that month column, because without it, it would have been extremely difficult to put that together in a pivot table. So same thing. I'm going to my orthopedics data, clicking into anything here, go to insert, pivot table again, existing worksheet. score by month, and same thing. It doesn't really matter where it goes. And click OK. So now this one, and for same thing here, you call this a name. I'm just going to call this SAT score because it's all about a satisfaction score with that. So like I said, I want to know the satisfaction score by each month. I want the average one, but I also want to know how many patients were there in that month, because there could be a situation where there was one month that was a low score, for example, like a 3.2, but maybe only 15 patients were there in June. Meanwhile, one month had a 7.2 and had 80 patients show up. So you want to make sure that when you're showing off average ratings, especially customer data, you want to back it up with how many people actually gave in their opinions for it. Because you don't want to have a situation where, oh, customers gave a low rating, but there was only 2 people that did it compared to other months. So this one's a little bit different with the setup. I want the months to be in the like the rows, and in the columns, I want the average score in the count. So let me take month, put that in rows. So we're good there. And for the columns, we're going to be putting, let's go. Actually, in the columns for this, because we're going to put a value in there, all we got to do with this is take the, how do I want to set this up? I want to do the average score first and then the ID. Yep. So patient score right here. We'll change it in a second, and ID right there. So like I said, once again, just like another one, the count patient ID, it counts because it's counting. So the CSAT score, that is the patient satisfaction score. So if they give, for example, a scale of 1 out of 10, 1 meaning they had an awful experience, 10 being they had a great experience. So we want to make sure we understand how the patients gave the score based on, let's say, the month. Now we have to also know this. We don't know yet if there is a correlation between when they came in or something like that, depending on the month. But we want to make sure we're backing up any assumptions we have before we send this off to anybody. So I like to make sure we're looking at anything we can to really see if there is a reason why we're getting a certain score. Is it by the month? Is it by the time of the day or whatnot? But the satisfaction score is extremely important if you're in anything to do with customer data. You always rely on feedback from customers because that's how you always improve. That's how you know what's working and you know what's not working. But like I said, in this one, the satisfaction score is a number, so it all automatically adds it up. It's going down here to sum of SAT score, field settings, average. We're done. Same thing here. I just want to make sure this is all. We go that one KPIs. Now, how do I go about the KPIs? And like I said, this is kind of like using my imagination with this, right? I'm just imagining a manager coming to me and be like, hey, Chris, I feel like we need to understand what's going on with the orthopedic department. I feel like there's lots of customers calling up with issues. We have a huge turnover in employment. We got to know what's going on. So for me, I'm thinking, okay, I want to understand how many people are even coming in, what things are like the average score. KPIs are kind of a good thing that affects everything that's going on. So kind of like the main points, right? How many people are even coming in? What's the average score? What's the average wait time? And depending on the filters we put in, those numbers get affected, right? So that'll also get affected as well. It's a better way of doing that instead of just throwing a huge table to people, making them do the work. By some of these KPIs, these are numbers that should be looked at that can be affected based on the month, the day of the week. And to me, those were the most important ones. But like I said, with everything else, especially with doing these projects, as I recommend to anyone who does these, you can kind of dictate how you want to go. I always recommend people watch them to see, okay, how is his way of thinking? What do I see that's different? What do I see things I agree with? And from there, you adjust, and then you have your own project. That's how I did mine, and that's how I think people should do theirs too. So to me, that's what I saw. But if someone sees something differently, you go do that. It's up to you. But to me, that's just how I'm putting this together. That's a very, very good question. So we're all set here with that one. You have the average score, which all these numbers matched up with our KPIs over here. And we have our average score by the month. And you see right here, some are significantly less than others. One is 4.1 in June, 6.4 in January. So maybe there's a reason for that. We don't know yet. So we're all set there. And then now we got age bracket. I like this one. This is a, oh gosh, I got to speak right. That's going to be a fun one. So going back to orthopedics, same thing. We're inserting another pivot table. You go pivot table, existing, age bracket, C5 again. Doesn't really matter where, but I like to go C5. So I'm going to call this one age bracket. And what I mean by that is we also want to understand, like, with the people giving these reviews, are these adult patients? Are these adults who have kids who are coming in? Like, because you understand too that most people who, as a person who's worked in an industry that is like, I worked in the sports training industry, and everyone I worked with was anyone from the ages 5 to 20. And most of the time you're dealing with parents who are doing anything with booking the lessons, running the teams and stuff like that. And when something happens to their kid that they don't like, they'll really make sure they leave the worst review possible, right? So we want to make sure that are the reviews we're getting, are they mainly parents giving reviews based on their kids' experiences, or are they mainly older, just adults giving about their experiences? Customer satisfaction. Yep. Customer satisfaction, or in this case, patient satisfaction score. My brain I don't know why I typed in, because I'm so used to working with customer satisfaction scores in the past. But this could be, we'll call it P. It's a more patient satisfaction score, more accurate. So this one's a little bit different. This one's it's gonna look a little bit messy, but let me go from there. Let me go age. So I want to do first is I want to put in the patient age in rows. There's about all the ages that came in. So you can see the youngest patient was 1, and there was a patient that was 79. That's the range we have. Now I want to know how many of those patients came in. So I'm going to drag patient ID into values. So we see right here, there were 5 patients who were 1, 8 that were 2, 6 who were 3, and so forth. But how I want to do this is, because I'm using a number, this could get a little rough. This could get a little messy here. So I want to group them together. And I didn't spend too much time. If you want to group this in a different way, you can. But all I'm going to do here is group it by every 10. So 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, and so forth. So I'm going to do with this, I'm going to click into any cell. We go to right click, and there's going to be a group option right here. So then you click group, and then right here, it says, okay, it's going to start at 1, ending at 79, which is, yep, that's exactly what it is. And by how many? To be by every 10. So every 10, it's going to change. So it's going to start at 1, then the next group will be at 11, then 21, 31, 41, and so forth. So let me click OK and see what we get here. And there we go. Now you get to see how many people were in each group. So there were 73 people who came in who were ages 1 to 10. There were 62 who were 11 to 20, 70 people who were 21 to 30, and so forth. So that's just something to understand. And then kind of looking at this, right, you kind of get an idea of looking at it that it's pretty consistent throughout, which might prove something and might not. But that's something that they want us to look at, and we put together in this way. It gets really difficult if you want to group it in, for example, inconsistent numbers. But if you find like you want to do a certain group with this, doing it by a consistent number like this works out pretty well in a pivot table. So we're all good here with that one. We have our age bracket for what we want. And then we got one more pivot table to do. One more, and we're all done with the good old pivot tables. So go back to orthopedic. Go to insert, pivot table, existing, Go to patients and wait time. I should have made that a little bit better with that name there. It's a little confusing. Click OK. And this one, I'm just going to call this one, I'm just call it wait time. So this one's going to be a little bit different. We're going to be trying to comparing two metrics in one because this is going to come in handy when we do one of our charts. So with this one, I want to know by the time. Okay, this one would be based off the time. I want to know, like, okay, if it, for example, was 8 a.m., I want to know the average wait time at 8 a.m. and how many patients came in. I want to see if there's correlation because, for example, if a lot of patients came in and it's a really high wait time, that makes sense. If there's not a lot of patients, but it's a huge wait time, that doesn't make any sense at all. So we want to start getting an idea on where that comes in. Is there a reason for that? And so forth. So let me pull in time frame into rows. And there we go. That's good. And let me get rid of this hours here. Move that. Perfect. Good. Let me see. I'm also going to do something really quick. Let me go here. Let me select my time. I don't want the seconds on there. Go into number here. Yeah, I just want to do this. I'm just going to have it set like this. I don't want this because there's no seconds involved with it. I just want to have the hours and minutes. So I'm going to just keep it right here. That's much better. That's much better to work with. So we're all set here. And the good thing, the reason why we also turned this into a time before is because Excel recognizes it as a time. As you see, it goes from 12 a.m. all the way down to 11 p.m. all in the correct order. That's why we do that. Much easier to work with. So like I said, we want to know how many patients came in at this time and also what was the average wait time. We want to see if there's a correlation, especially when we start working with our filters later. So let's start off with, let's go with the average wait time. We'll change that in a second. And then the amount of patients. So like I said, we got and like I said, the more you start working with Excel, especially like pivot tables, there's so much you can do with it. I could talk about pivot tables all day long. But the more you just start working with Excel and the more you start understanding where things should be going, especially right here in pivot tables, how you work in Power BI and things like Tableau, it's going to be so much better. Just the way you're able to know where things should be going and how data should be working helps a ton. So the count's fine, but like I said, with this, we want the average time. So go into values, field settings, average, done. Let's change this all into just full number. And there we go. The reason why we do full number is because because this is in minutes. If you do like 31.2, you have to start thinking, okay, what is 0.2 of a minute, which is 12 seconds? But like, you don't want to force people to do that. You don't need to be too precise with that. I think this is fine. If your manager comes back and like, hey, we really want to make sure we know what the minutes are or the seconds, then yeah, sure, we could do that. But it's always best to keep it with this because you don't want to get to a point where you're getting too many numbers all over the place. It's way easier to work with. So this is just a quick glance at just looking at the time. Now, of course, when we put on our filters later, we're going to really drive this down a little more because we can see here that, for example, glance at it quickly, 40 seems to be the highest, and there's only 21 people there. And 40, 19, that makes no sense. So at 5 a.m. and 1 p.m. are the highest, or actually 11 p.m. is the highest. But we got to understand, is it because of a certain day? Was there a certain day that was bad, a weekday or something like that? That's where the slides will be coming in to make sure we understand that a little bit better. So we're all good here. Now we could do kind of some more fun things and kind of put together some visualizations. So let me go back to, with this, will be no visualization. We're going to be creating some KPI areas on our dashboard. So we're not doing anything with that yet. But let me go into this. Now, when I see this, I'm trying to think, is there a way I can show this off besides a table? Is there a way I could show off the average score because I want to make sure I know the average score and the patient, how many patients came in. Is there a way to show it off better in a table? And if there is, what could that way be? To me, in this situation, I just think a table is the most straightforward way to do this. I don't think a graph or anything like that is needed for this, because sometimes you just want the numbers. Sometimes you don't need a chart to really show you this. But what we could do, this is something if you want to do. I'm not going to do it because I think that it could take away from the data. But you could, for example, put in a conditional formatting to be like, oh, if it's less than 4, well, I want to be a red. If it's between 4.1 and 5.5, I want to be a gold. And if it's above 5.5, make it green. To kind of symbolize if it's a low score, middle score, high score. But honestly, I don't know if I want to do that because I think it might take away from it. If anyone wants me to do it, I can do it like at the end. But for right now, I'm going to leave it the way it is because I think a table in this situation is just all that's really needed. So going to the age bracket here. With this, I'm going to do a bar chart. I think doing a bar chart here is the most useful. I'm going to go to insert, and I'm going to go to pivot chart right here. And then usually when you click that, it right away gives you what they recommend. Excel will look at your data quickly and recommend you, okay, we think you should be doing this column chart or you should be doing this bar chart. And I'm a huge bar column chart person because I think it's the most straightforward way to show off your data. Now, sometimes you don't need it. Sometimes you do. In this situation, I think it's best because we're using a grouped amount of data. So that's what the bar chart looks like, that column chart. And the bar chart looks like this. Now, I don't know about you, but I kind of want to do the column one. I think this one makes most sense because I think we read left to right. And we see right here the numbers, first one, 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30. We read left to right. With this, well, first of all, we'd have to switch up the bars and make sure they're going up and down or keeping it that way. It just could get a little bit confusing, a little bit. So I'm going to leave it as a column chart. I'm not going to get too crazy with it. Just leave it right there, click OK. And I'm going to leave it right there for now. I'm not going to be making any changes in the chart. I'm going to do that when I pull it into the dashboard. But for right now, I'm leaving it right here the way it is. And then I'm going to move on to the patience and wait time. And with this one, there are 2 metrics we're looking at. This one, we definitely could do a visualization because when the numbers are pretty similar, when they're different meaning, but when the numbers are close to each other, there's most likely a way you can incorporate both into a visual and it doesn't bring too much away from it. So what I'm thinking this one is, okay, what is the best way for me to show this off with it making sense? I love doing combo charts using a bar chart and a line chart. I think that it's very useful. I think you could really see quickly correlations, and that's what I'm going to do with this one. And I'm going to go to insert, pivot chart, and see that it recommends a clustered column, but like I said, that's going to get hectic. If there was only, let's say, 4 things I was looking at, then maybe. But because there's 24 different type of rows we're working with here, it's going to look horrific. So what I'm going to do here is go down to combo, and that's exactly how I want it to be. I'm just going to give you an option of this. So the option of the patient ID. Do you want the patient ID to be a line or a column? I want to leave it the way it is. I want the patient ID to be a line. I want the wait time to be a column. And I want that because the wait time is usually going to be higher. It's always going to be higher than the patient ID. I like to have the line not be on top of the bar because it doesn't really then make too much sense. I want the line to be almost in the bar. So that's how we're going to do it. That looks okay to me. Click OK. And like I said, there's gonna be some changes we do here. from the color changes and everything like that. Especially down here as well. But we're all good. Let me see here. I don't want. Oh, because I need to zoom out a little bit. I have to do something with this. These times here. I don't want the seconds here. But we'll make that change in a little bit. So before I continue, does anyone have any questions so far before I start putting together the dashboard part, which could get a little hectic? Does anyone have any questions or anything like that about putting together anything I've done so far with the age bracket, the wait time, or anything like that? Is there any questions before I jump into the dashboard part? No, we're all good. Cool. Okay. So to the dashboard, here we go. This is where things are going to start getting a little bit hectic. Okay. I like to, like I said, in here, there's going to be a handful of KPIs I'm going to be working with. And here's going to be kind of like our title and some text. So what I want to do first is I want to create where I want my title to go. And what I did so far in this one is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So I'm going to take the first 6 here. I'll zoom in a little bit so everyone can see. Take the first 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Drag across. Hopefully the people who use the keyboard for everything don't yell at me, but I like to use my mouse sometimes. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to merge and center it. So I'm going to go right in here, merge and center. So that basically creates one huge cell. So anything I put in here will stay in here. And I want that to be that way. I don't want this going anywhere else. I want this to be one huge cell for my title. And then right here with this is about 5. So you just cover the rest, merge and center. That's going to be where some like the text goes. Right in there, I'm going to be putting things like make sure you use the filters below to find the data you're looking for. Kind of like a little description area, should I say. But that's for the data. That's the data, sorry, the title. And what I'm going to put in for the title, I'm just going to put in, let's go, orthopedics, analytics, dashboard, 2023, close it up. And because it's all merged and centered into one, we could do a ton with this. What I'm going to do is I like to keep things, like I said, left to right. I'm going to just go over here, align it all the way to the left. I'm going to buff it out like 1 or 2, buff it out a little bit. Put more in the, let's go here in the middle. Yep. And now I'm going to make this a little bit larger. See how much it gets. Okay. Let me go 32. Perfect. 32. So we're good there. I'll bold that. So we're good with that. And then for this, I'm not going to do anything yet with this. I'm just going to put in here description just so I know. Actually, let me not description. Put summary / filter info. Just so I know what goes in there. So I'm not messing with things too much or anything like that. So we're all good with that. And now I want to set up our KPIs right here. So I got to think with this one, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13. Okay. So I could do here. So if there's 13, how do I want to do this? I want this to take up a few. Okay. So let's go here. I'm going to go here to R3. Go down to R4. I'm going to cover 3 cells across. So it should look something like this, like a 3 by 2. Same thing. I'm going to merge and center that one. Go here to VWX. Merge, center that one. Perfect. See right here with this, what I did was I did a merge center here. I like to have a little space between. So I put a space between. Obviously, like I said, these lines will not always be here, but I'll put a space between this, space between that, space between this, and then ideally, I could almost basically get rid of this right here. It's gonna stop right here at some point. Actually, no, let me put it back. I'll leave it there. And then here's going to be the titles of our KPI. So like I said before, we had things like our how many patients, what was our average score, and what was the average wait time. And we can put that all in right now. What I want to do with this is I'll just put in number of patients. And then for this one will be average, we'll call it PSAT score, patient score. I like to abbreviate. Maybe I don't want to write everything out because, like I said, I don't want to get to a point where certain of these cells are much larger than others. And after this one, I'll just put in average. Oh boy, click some wrong things there. Average wait time, and I want to make sure everyone knows it's in minutes. Okay. So we're all good here. Let me just put these right in the middle. I want both these to be aligned in the middle. Let me buff that out a bit. Let's go 14. Put that in the middle. 14. Middle. 14. And like I said, it might look like it's kind of crammed in there right now. But like I said, once these grid lines are out, you're not going to notice at all. You're not going to notice them at all. So that's why it's okay to buff these out a little bit. You know, let me make these even a little bit larger. Trust me, you're not going to notice a thing once the grid lines are out. Actually, no. Yeah, I'm going to leave my 14 for now. So now let me put in the numbers I want. Now I want these numbers to be fairly large, right? I want these to be the big part of this. So let me think here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'll just go across. So it's a 6 by, did I do 6? Or was that 5? 1, 2, 6, yeah. Merge center. Good. So there's just one big box there. And if you want to just do this really quickly, and you know exactly where it's going to go, you just Control C, copy it. And let's say I want to start here. Control V and Control V. Done. And your box is just like that. Like I said, it's not best practice to be always doing a bunch of merge and centers, but because we're sending this off as just like a report, it's okay because they're not gonna see these grid lines. They're not gonna see these boxes. If they really wanted something, a quick, easy report within like 30 minutes, you wouldn't be doing all of this. But just practice, understand how merge and center works and its capabilities. One thing to know about merge and center, though, is the biggest thing is obviously we're doing a dashboard like this. It doesn't really matter too much. But if you want to, if you put this on a regular sheet, right? Let's say we go, since we don't need this right now. Let's say I merge these two together. I'm not gonna do it. Basically, all I'm saying is you can't filter through cells that are merge and centered. There's a way around that. I'm not going to get into that now because it doesn't matter too much. But like I said, merge and center could ruin spreadsheets. So it's not good practice to use it very often unless it's for a certain reason. But with this, it's not being filtered up and down. So it doesn't really matter too much. All I'm going to do with this is type equals in here. And all I'm going to do is go back to the KPIs and click into here. It automatically gets that pivot information. Click enter and just do the same thing for the rest. Go back, enter, equals, enter. Cool. So all good there. And actually, something I did forget to do is I want to apply, going back to KPIs, because we're doing it by things by the month and a day of the week. Even though it's not affecting it, I just want in there so when we connect them at the end, we could use these filters for everything involved. So we're all good there. And same thing here. We're going to have to reapply what we had before. So just changing that to a 1 decimal, change it to a full number. And same thing here. So we have plenty of room for this. So let's see when we put them right in the middle. I'm going to bold it. How much room can we go? Okay, that's maybe a little too much. 48. Okay, I'm gonna go with 48 here. Let's see, bold that. 48, enter, yep. Put that in the middle. 48, enter, good. Now you might be thinking, okay, why don't we paste this at special since we pulled it from a pivot table? Like, no, we want to do that for a reason. Because we're taking it from a pivot table, these numbers up here will always change depending on the filter you choose. So we want to keep that the way it is. So we're all good with that. We are all set with our KPIs. So now we have to bring over our 3 charts. So let's start off with our table. So we go into here. And I'm going to just Control A, select everything. Control C. Let's go back to our dashboard. I'm going to click into, because now this is not going to take up that much room. That's the thing. It's not going to take up too much room, but it's okay. So let's go here. I'm going to go into, was it J16? Once again, doesn't really matter too much. I'm going to be taking away all of these lines at the end. Control V. And let's make this a little bit larger. Here we go. Don't need that. Okay, we're good here. And I'm going to zoom out because now when I get to the dashboard, you'll notice that things could get a little bit different here. I like to zoom out to 80 just so I can see everything through. What I want to do here is a couple things. I want to make the text a little bit larger so I can see it. And I'm just pull these out a little bit more just so we can see certain things. Now, with this, we see this column is the way it is because of the title, right? This doesn't have to be this large of a table. I want to make sure with this, I want to change up these names to kind of make a little more sense. And another thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut this. So Control X. I'm going to put this like one more down. Control V. Yeah, just one more down. So what I want to do here is I want to change this to just month. Just so we know what the month we're working with. And for this, we're going to just call this we could abbreviate this to just average PSAT score. And you see right there, it just gets much smaller because obviously the text doesn't take up as much. So go with there. And then same thing with this one. We're just going to call this number of patients. We're good. Table's much better. And I want these to be more in the middle. A little bit easier. I don't know. It doesn't really matter too much, but I like when they're aligned kind of more in the middle, especially when you know both numbers. They each have 2 digits. This one has a decimal and a single digit. I like that they're somewhat aligned. It's easier to kind of read, a little more to the point. I want to make this a little bit larger. Okay, that's good. A little bit better to see. Cool. So looks like we're okay with this. And like I said, you can make this so much better. Clean this up so much. Let me show you a way you could actually take this and make this look a lot better, in my personal opinion. You go to design up here. When you click into the pivot table, you go up to design and they give you many different styles of learning. I like to go a little bit on the dark part for the table. So if, like, for example, for this one, it's all set up where the top and the bottom with the total and then the column names are more of a darker color. And in the middle, it's this like blue. And you don't have to keep it this way. You don't have to keep the specific color. It's just a good way to like just think a little bit different. Like this, I might not want the blue to be that dark. I wonder if I can make it like kind of like a gray, like a light gray, possibly. A little bit easier to see. I'm gonna just go with that. Can I make that? How would it look bolded? Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that actually. So like I said, it kind of could be up to however you want to do it. And for me, I'm gonna do it this way. I don't know. Maybe it's because I like also like that navy blue color. You know, I like to keep it consistent like that. That's just one way to do that. So, and then when we're done here, since we don't really need this as much, we could just get rid of the border here. So going up to the border, just going no border. We're all done with that one. So we are good with that. Now let me bring in the age bracket. So let me go into here. I'm going to cut this, bring it to my dashboard, just paste it anywhere I want right there. Cool. I'm going to get rid of this also now since I don't need that. Get rid of that. And now I want to think too, like, okay, I want to make sure it stays somewhat aligned in here. Let me go. And also, actually, one way you could do this to make sure that things like you see right here, this table is perfectly in the cells because it's a table. If you want your chart to stay in line with the Excel grid lines, hold down Alt and it'll stay attached. You can see as I'm dragging it up, it's attaching to each line. So it's good to stay in line with that. For example, I want to stay in line with it. So here, that goes to the next one, and I'm good right here. So now I know I'm in line with it. And I can also do this too. If I want to drag it down, hold Alt, drag it down, down. It's perfectly lined up now. That's really good too with Excel because obviously if you just drag, it can go anywhere you want. But if you hold down Alt and you drag in whatever direction you want or just hold it, it'll attach to the cell itself. So that's one little easy way to work with that. And I'm going to hold down this side. I'm going to drag this to the end. Stays aligned. And we're good there. Cool. So what I got here, and there's one thing in here that is a little bit different. For example, this one has a title. This one doesn't. This was a table, so you don't have that title staying on top. So I'm eventually going to put in a title right here. There's like this 2x3 right here. Merge and center that. And because I'm going to put in the title to the table right here, I want to make sure that this whole entire sheet is lined up with this one. So holding Alt down, make sure it's lined up. Oh, I was wondering. Oh, no, I messed up. I was holding that control. I was like, why is it not attaching? Alt. There we go. Now we're good. Okay, so we're all good here. Now, let's put in this title for our table. And all I'm going to say is I like to always think I want to do I hate saying like average score by month or this. I want to put like a question in there. Like, what was our average patient score? That's all I'm going to say. What was our, and I like to really capitalize what I'm talking about, average patient score. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to go back in, put it in the middle. Let's see how much we could get out of this before it gets crazy. Okay, let's go 16. That looks good. So when you see it like this, right, we want certain parts of this to stick out a little bit more. So I'm going to, let's see. I'm just going to bold this part right here. Bold that. Just so they know exactly when they look at this. We're looking at the average patient score. That's what this one's about. And the whole point about this too is all of this we're doing is very subjective. That's one way how I like to do it. That doesn't mean that's how maybe you want to do it. That's fine. It's all about what works best for you and the way that you're thinking. So in here, I want to make this a little bit better. I'm not gonna do anything crazy with the color or something like that. Once again, that's something if you want to do some crazy design and really emphasize it a different way, that's all you. But we know what the total is. We don't need this right here. So let me delete that. We don't need these. We don't need the buttons here. Now you don't want to remove them. You just want to hide them. So you get more room on there. And we don't need the grid lines because we're going to do something different. So delete that. Delete these. So we're left with just the bar and the numbers here. So what I want to do with this is click into the bars so it affects all of them. Just go right click, and then we're going to add data labels. And that is the number right there. I like doing it this way. Sometimes a little bit easier to see it this way instead of looking left to right, up, down. It's a lot easier. And let me just click into these numbers now, these data labels. Let me make them a little bit larger. Go to like let's see, 11. Bold them. Let me also bold these numbers so we can see. Let's put like a 10. Bold them too. And let me think. Okay. What do I want to name this? And we see right here, because we're aligned, these cells look pretty good because when we take away the grid lines, it's going to look very aligned with our titles. So with this, I'm going to say, also I want to make sure it's the same. So Calibri. Oh gosh, I'm definitely saying that very wrong. Let's go. I want to keep it consistent. That's all. Calibri. Let's go 16. Make sure text is black. There we go. Cool. I'm going to say how many patients, I'm going to capitalize patients. Move this a little bit. Were there in each age bracket? Question mark. And I'm going to bold patients and age bracket, because those are the two most important parts that we are talking about in this chart. So I'm bolding those two just because those are most important ones. So we're all good here. And last but not least, I'm going to take this away because we know where this is going to go. I'm going to bring it now over the chart here. I'm going to cut this, paste it right here, and let's align this. Here we go. And let's bring it up a little bit. We're good there. And okay, looks pretty good. Now this one, a couple things we do here. And we have to understand too what is going on in this chart. Once again, we see here the orange is how many patients there were, and the blue is the average wait time. So for example, at 9 a.m. on every day that it was 9 a.m., an average of 33 patients came in at that time. In that time, so anytime from 9 a.m. to 9:59 a.m., and the average wait time was 38 minutes. So you see here, for example, like this one clearly had the most people, but it was not the highest wait time. So we got to think like there might be a reason for that. But there's also probably a reason like why is that 5 a.m. the wait time huge, but there wasn't that many patients. So it could be other things too, right? Maybe like it's not the hospital's fault. Maybe they're understaffed at certain times. So it's always good to see that kind of correlation there. So let me think with this one. Same thing. I don't want these buttons. I like to keep this. I'm going to format the legend. I want it in the bottom. I always like it having on the bottom. I just think it's actually, you know what? Top right. Do I want it there? That takes up a lot. Yeah. I'm going to leave it in the top right. I'm going to drag this out. There we go. That's better. Yep, that's better. So I like to have in the top right because I just feel like if it's in the bottom, it takes away from the chart. If it's in the top right, it kind of puts off to the side enough that if you want to look into it, it's there for you to see. So a couple things here. I got to do something about these this time here because I don't want these seconds here. And this could be, I feel like my brain's not working right with that. Let me go back to where this came from. Just give me 1 second. Let me make some changes here. Go. Let me refresh that. Okay. Oh, my brain's not working right now. Like I said, I think I want to figure out a way because I don't want these seconds on here because with all these seconds on here, it just makes it look really rough. Don't know why the seconds are coming out right now. I don't want in here. Like I said, the biggest thing with this that what I would do when putting this together is making sure I'm not going to take out. I don't want to take up too much of the time. I'll do it at the very end, but getting those seconds off just so it could fit in a little bit better because you see right here, the time frames get way too cramped up. But for right now, we'll put this all together, and at the very end, I'll fix up for you guys to make sure it's all good to go. Same thing here. I want to, these are all set up based on what we have on the wait time here. So I want to make sure these are changed to something more appropriate. So I'm just change this to wait time. And then this will just be patience. And now when we go back, it's changed it to what we want it to be. And I want this to be going across so it doesn't get too bunched up. Let's bold them, make them a little bit larger so people know what they're looking at. And I also want a title. So chart title, same thing here. Making sure it's like the rest, buffed up to 16. And we want to put in here for the title, I'm going to put in, is there a correlation between the wait time and the number of patients? So I'm putting in there for that. Let me make sure. Yep, good. And for this one, I'm going to bold wait time and patience, since that is what we're, and I'm going to do correlation since that's what we're talking about. So I'll go with that. And I'm going to keep the lines and all the numbers here because that is important. So it looks like we're good there, but I'm going to change up the colors of the bars here and the line. So let me go into here. Go into the bars. I'm going to make them, let's see here. What was that? How's that look? That's too late. That's a little better. Go there, and I'm going to change the orange into kind of like this, keep it consistent. Put that there. Let's see, can I put a marker? Yeah, let's do a marker. Why not? But I don't want that orange. I want that to be like black. Let's see. What? You know, I should have not done that. I should have just not done that. Whatever. I'm just not gonna. No marker. So that's what I've set up right here for this one. Like I said, at the end, I'll make sure I get the seconds off there because once that's fixed, it gets much easier to understand. So, one other quick thing too, I want to make sure I go back into these and what was it? I want there to be no border. I want there to be for these two. I want no border, and you'll see in a second. We're good here. I can get rid of these borders here since we're all good. And a couple things left. We have to put in our summary and we have to put in our slicers. So we have right now is, let's do our slicers. We want the month and we want the day of the week. So let me go to here. I'm going to go to right click into here. And then when you click into this one, because this is something we want to extract from, right? There's a month in here. We can use this for a slicer. Go into pivot table, analyze, and then insert slicer. And when you click that, it's going to ask you, okay, so based off of this, what slicer are we doing? Is it based off the month, time frame, day of the week? For this one, first one, we're going to be doing day of the week. Actually, day of the week. Yeah, let's do day of the week first. Click OK. And we'll pull this over here, and you can see it actually fits in pretty well. So I'm going to keep it that same width. That looks good. Let me pull it down to about here. And with this, you can also make it a little bit larger if you want. Just go 0.3 for right now. And don't worry about this too much about anything here, because now this is where it gets a little tricky. When it comes to slicers, they kind of usually come in just like a couple set formats, and that's really it. I don't like how it comes in sometimes. I want to be a little bit different. So I have right here, once you click into a slicer and you go up here where it says slicer, actually, wait, let me see if my work. Good call there. You go slicer. Call this slicer day. I'll just call it day of the week. A couple things we want to do here. We got to do a couple things. We got to change the design, and we have to report connections. We want these to connect to certain tables. So I'm going to do report connections first. And right here, as it says, can I make this any larger or not? Okay. Because we put this together, right? The current slicer is attached right now to, I forgot to name that one, pivot table 5, which is right here. But it's like, okay, what else do you want this to be associated with? I want this also be changed to the age bracket, the KPIs, the wait time, and then the score as well. So that's fine. Click OK. And just to give a little quick preview of it, like for example, if I click Tuesday, everything gets affected here. You can see right now, everything is set up how it should be. And you see actually right here, you might wonder, okay, like what happened? What happened right here? In this current pivot table, how pivot tables are right away is that if there is no data in it, it's blank. So what's saying is that in the month of January and February, on Tuesdays, no one left a review in those months. So what we want to do here is right-click into any of them, right-click, and go to pivot table options. It's going to give you an option right here for empty cells show blank. And we want to think in this situation. So we're trying to show off a score. We don't want to put in 0, because if we put in 0, it's going to be like, oh, then everyone gave a bad score. We're just going to put in NA. NA, so there's no data for that. So I'm just going to put in N/A. Click OK. And now you see if there is any cells with no data in it, it's just going to say NA. So that's all. We're all set with that one. And you see if I keep clicking around, everything gets adjusted to it. Everything gets adjusted. Everything's good. Cool. If you want to select multiple, you click this icon right here, and you click multiple days. Now this will be combined, right? Like everything here will be combined. So if you click on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, this is for all those days. But that's how you do it. And if you want to clear the filter to bring it back to normal, then you just click the exit filter one right there. On the dashboard still. Well, actually, the thing about Power BI is a lot of these concepts, pretty much like everything I'm kind of talking about, is in Power BI. Like the slicers, the connections, that's all in Power BI. So that's why if you can learn a lot of these concepts in Excel, it makes Power BI so much easier. And I think that sometimes with Excel, and a lot of people who have their entry-level roles, they might not have access right away to certain tools like Power BI or Tableau or something. To be able to get in here and make something in Excel can really get to show off your value and be like, hey, like, look what I can do here. Maybe can I get approved to use Power BI because I can really take our work a little bit further from a visualization perspective. But these are some concepts here that if you can learn it here, helps a ton with Power BI. There's so many great things in Excel that move over to Power BI because it is a Microsoft tool. They work hand in hand with each other. So we're all good with that. And then let me now go back to the slicer. I have one already created. Or not. Oh, that's right. Because this is a separate document. Oh, here we go. We're going to make a slicer together. Now, we're going to start with a new slicer. Now, this could get a little hectic. But like I said, I'm a huge trial. I'll be honest, slicers, like, it wasn't that long ago. I was like, I want to customize them. But for some reason, I just could not figure it out for some weird reason. I'll call this just my slicer. So what's basically what it's saying is like, okay, for the whole slicer, what do you want to look like? For the header of it, what do you want to look like, and so forth. I want the whole slicer to. I like to keep it. What was it? Just blank. Because the background will also be blank. I want to leave it that way. I like to keep my slicer with the background color. So if your background color is a type of blue, make sure the whole slicer is that color also. Like, let me see. For example, let me see if I can do a quick example here. Let me color this in. Let's see what happens when I do this. Never mind. This is just going to get too hectic. But when I did that color, right? Oh, no, it did freeze. Okay. When I turn to that gray, you see right now this background is still white, right? So if I want this to match the background so it blends in with it, I would pick that color. But I'm not doing that for this one. So let me go back to the slicer. Where'd it go? My slicer. So whole slicer is going to stay just white. For the header, that is going to be, I want the background of that to match this color of this blue right here. So I'm going to pick this one. I'm a New York Yankees fan, and they like that midnight blue color. So this is definitely what it's all about. And because I'm using this background color, I want my font to be, let's see, I want that to be color white so it stands out. I don't know, make it like a 12. Let me bold it too. Click OK. And I just want you to see what it looks like right away. Like, click enter, just so you see. Click that. You see right now that the title is right, the header is right there. It's in white, and the header now is white as well. But you see the rest is all blanked out, which we're going to go back in and change that. Go back to modify. And now we want to do is, okay, for the data that is selected, what do we want that color to look like? When we select it, what do we want to look like? I'm going to leave it, it's just black, leave it normal. I'm going to I want that to turn to like this blue right here. Click OK. And if it's not selected, I'm going to make it like a lighter blue. So it looks like that. And then let me just see what it looks like right now. So you see what it looks like. So if I hover over it, if I click on it, it turns into that light blue. If I hover over it, it's white, and it stays in that like dark, in that like kind of dark blue. I want to switch it around. I did the wrong way. I want to keep it light blue, and I want to turn dark blue when I select it. So go back to modify, format that. I'm going to switch this around, make that light blue. Click OK. Unselected, dark one. And if I hover over it, let's see. Let me just click OK for now. And there we go. A little bit better. But like I said, because the background's going to be white, every time I hover over it, I don't want to also be white. So I want to change that as well. And like I said, once you make it once, you can just reapply. It's just really trying to make sure it is the way you want is always the biggest pain. That's all. Let's see. Unselected format. Let's make this let's just do the same thing. That blue. Okay. So hover over it. Oh wait, why is it? I'll go back. I did the wrong one. There we go. Okay. So every time you go over, and like I said, there's so many things you can change with this. So many things you could change. But like, for example, you could be changing the, like I want to change the whole slicer. Let's see. I want to make the font, make that bold, make things a little bit kind Go like 11. See what that looks like. There we go. That's a little better. So there's so many things you can change with this. But for right now, just so I'm not spending too much time, I'm going to keep it that way. And then let me also rename this whole entire slicer settings. Day of week. Oh, my bad. Forgot the caption of it. That's what to change. And we're good there. Cool. So we have that one all set up. Now we have one more where we have to do the month. So we could just go back into here. There we go. Just froze a little bit. Not a big deal. Let's see. Click in there. Analyze. Slicer. And this one will be the month. Okay. Bring that over to like right there. That looks good. And same thing. I want to just put this slicer I had before. That's what I mean. You pick it. You do it once, it automatically picks it up, right? So let me go back in here. Bring this down. And like I said, it only goes to October, so don't be alarmed. It doesn't do every month. It only goes to October. That's fine. Let's see. Same thing for this one. Let me go to slicer settings, caption, just capitalizing it to make sure it looks okay. And then I want to report the connections slicer, report connections. Now with this one's a little bit different. I don't want this slicer affecting this table. Okay. So let me go to report connections. I don't want it affecting that one. I want to do every other one except for that one, because when I don't need that one to be affected by the month. We already have it right here. Because if we do that, it's going to keep collapsing up and down. It's going to take away from the dashboard. So we're good here. That should be fine. Click OK. And let's take a look to see how it goes. March. Yep. It's exactly what we have to do. Let's see. We'll look at February. That's when this one's a little bit. Maybe I'd switch some things up here. Like I said, with the slicer, the biggest things with it is when you go into here, modify. Definitely let me clear that one. Click OK. There, that's better. Yep. There we go. Now I'm better. So, like I said, this is all set perfectly. And like I said, this one, oh man, why is this one get all messed up on me? Come on, what's going on here? But like I said, this is all set up for the slicer. I don't know, why is this one? I'm not sure. I got to look in that one too. But we're all set up here because, like I said, this one's already a month. We don't want that being associated with this one because that will just make it collapse up and down all the time. So we could get rid of the border here as well since we do not need it. Let me get rid of it. Cool. And now for this summary, what I'm just going to say is I'm just going to tell people, you can put whatever you want. I'm just going to say, please use the filters to the left to look for your specific insights. I'm also going to remind people, because maybe some people in here don't understand the filtering and things like that. I'm just going to mention the three check mark button allows you to select multiple filters, while the X mark clears all the filters. Okay. You can put however you want to put it. You can put any kind of information there. I'm just putting it as like how to navigate it. Doesn't really matter too much. That's all set there. I'm going to format like this. I'm going to wrap it so it all fits in there. Put more in the middle. I'm going to buff it out so it matches kind of with the title. And make that a little bit larger, but we don't want to take away from it too much. I'll make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to stick with 12. Okay. So we're all good here. Now, the moment of truth. There's a couple things we could do here too. Let me bold that. Make that a little bit larger. There we go. There's a couple things we do here. You could, for example, we could put colors here, which I'm actually going to do. I'm going to keep it consistent with the others. Put it here, here, and then there. Make sure these all become white text. There we go. But you know what? Let me get rid of grid lines now. So all you do with that is you go to view, get rid of grid lines, and there you go. Now you get your dashboard's pretty much like all set in this way. And from here, you can make adjustments, right? Like if you want to make these a little bit larger, you can. If you want to buff out these numbers and like put them in with a certain color, you can. If you want to put in, let's say, a border around this whole entire thing, you just go here, draw a border however you want. If you want to put the borders back on these, you can. You really can put in however way you want. But as of right now, it's pretty much set up fairly decently, actually, from an organization standpoint. The one thing is, I would say, trying to make sure to fix up that to get the seconds out so it matches up a little bit better. But how this is all set up for right now, yeah, this is pretty much a good point to start. And you can see right here, you can even make this now a little bit larger if you really want to. So now you don't have the grid lines on there. It looks so much different. There's almost so much more room to work with here. Like these could be put a little bit closer together if you want. But it's really up to however you want. But as is right here with the filters here to the side, the tables and our charts and our KPIs and everything like that, we're pretty much all set up. So how can you share it online for others to interact with? The share button right here. The biggest thing with that, it gets a little bit tough because this is is set onto your computer. If you do Excel online, like through Microsoft 365, which is the online version of Excel, people could use it online with no issue. The problem is with this being on my desktop, I'm not able to do it. But if I wanted to, like I said, get on there and let other people use it and explore it, I would use my Microsoft 365 to do it, and people could use it that way. That is, to my knowledge, best way for others to use it online without, sending it through a normal email or something like that. But that is just quickly. Like I said, I could have done this much quicker, if it wasn't obviously talking and things like that. But that's just a quick way on how putting that together with the slicers, the pivot tables, the KPIs in a quick way. This is all set up, though, for you to customize it the way you want. The different colors, the organization, the filtering, things like that. It's all up for you to put it the way you want. And what I can do is if you are interested in having this set up this way, if you just reach out to me, I'll send you this file so you could have it the way it is. So you could if you want to start off with this and make changes from there, you can do that. Just reach out to me and I can send you this file. But yeah, that's what I have set up for the dashboard here. Is there anything else, any questions or anything you want me to show you in Excel or anything like that? Since this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, or any kind of questions? Automate this. So how do you automate this? So the best way with this, since this is a pivot table, right? So if you ever go back into, this is all coming from, if you wanted to automate this, you would not, for example, do what we did here, where we set it up as this one table, right? Because we copied and pasted into a new one. If you want this to be automated, what you would probably do is set up something through Power Query, where you have a query set up that will only extract what you're looking for. So things like the year, the office, right? So then anytime someone gets updated in 2020, well, this is pretending you're in 2023, right? that anytime someone would upload something to this data, your dashboard would automatically update because all these pivot tables are associated with the data set. So and this is kind of very similar to something, not this topic, but there's a handful of reports I have on my job that are pulled in from a few different data sources. And I use Power Query to basically just refresh it every day. It automatically refreshes every day with new data being put in. And because it's associated with a pivot table, if you go to the pivot table here, like let me do a quick example here. So for example, you'll see let me put in like a new one here just to do it. And you'll see exactly how it just refreshes. So let's just say this was also October. This was that'd be a Tuesday, whatever, right? This one happened at also, it's called 3 a.m. I'm just dragging things down to show an example. So let's be all a little bit messed up here. So basically, let's say a new entry came in, right? So new entry came in for October. It was a Tuesday at 3. So we should see a difference, right? So before I save this and refresh it or anything, let's look at it's 531, so that should go up to 532. The age bracket, that should go up to 63. The score right here, that should go up to 55. So let me do this right here. Just save this really quick. And let me go to KPIs, click into here, go to pivot table, analyze, refresh, and see it went up. So this is all set up too, that these pivot tables are set up to your data. And actually what should happen is the whole entire data set changed. This is attached to it. Now, the wait time didn't change too much because it was only one entry, but everything else changed, right? October went up 1. This technically would go up 1 with the correlation because someone came in at 3. So as long as your pivot tables are connected to the data that is usually a query through Power Query, every single time it gets updated, this will update too. So that's one great thing. And I want to do that too. That'll be something when I want to put a little bit more, I won't say word effort because obviously I try to put effort into it. But when I have to put a little more time into something, that'll be something I try to do, is try to replicate something I kind of do at my job. So where I'm pulling in something from Power Query, getting that to what I want, so it can be automated for future use and stuff like that. But that's how you do it. That's how I would do it, is you get a data source, use Power Query to get exactly what you want from it, and just continuously refresh that however times you want. And this will all refresh as well, as long as the pivot table is connected to it. And if it ever does have something wrong with it, you could always change your data source. That if for some reason a file changes or you want to change exactly where it's coming from, you could change the data source right here and select where you want it to come from. So that's how that's all set up. That's why, there's so much you do with pivot tables and Power Query. But this is an example, like if someone wanted to just get a quick glance at something, you would just send something like this. If there's for example, I had that report where my director kept asking me, we want this every few days or this. And I'm like, can I just make something where you don't have to keep asking me? I could just make it and you just check in every day, it will refresh. And now it's set up as an Excel dashboard where people could just refresh whatever they want and it's a live connection. So lots you can do with Power Query and pivot tables from just a connection standpoint. So that's a really good question. Any other questions, anything like that about the dashboard or anything like that? Cool. So like I said, I appreciate you guys coming by. Like I said, this will all be archived. If you ever want to look back at the dashboard, look back at certain points of it that we're unsure of, you can do that. I'll also I'll see how much editing I'll have to do to try to make it a little bit more easier to look back. But I appreciate everyone coming by to this first little workshop. I look forward to doing more in the future. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me here on YouTube, LinkedIn, anything like that. And I very much appreciate it. Thank you all for stopping by. See you around.